out into the sky for angels, for UFOs, for more intelligence, more for God, really, for the stars and stuff. So up in fifth, this is in fifth density, fifth and sixth density. This butterfly is completely out of our density. We can't see it, but it's like right in front of us. And that our sixth density self is literally here now. Like, it's aware of me right now. It's always constantly aware of me. And it's like waiting for the perfect moment to like, because this is my gravitational field, right? That's my gravitational field there. And sixth density self is like right out here and waiting for the moment that it can like inject a positive like a feeling, like it's an emotion, you know. These are all thought forms, but thought forms are not like, they don't talk English, they don't speak English. They're like energies, so you could say that, but they're energies and they're translated into thoughts, and then the thoughts are going to make us react emotionally, because again, like when something happens, like the pin drops, I was aware of that for a second. I stopped thinking while this pin was in the air, but after it, like after the sound it made, I was like, oh, that's loud. So I went into time there. And the sixth density self is always waiting for that moment where you're not going to think, because then it can get in. It's so subtle. It's so positive, because the very nature of positivity is like not invasive. It's like, it's passive. You know, it's like, okay, you can do your thing, whatever. Like, I'm going to respect you. Like, you can do you. But the moment you're silent, like, you become magnetic. That's why you become negative. That's why you know, yogis are so wise. They're constantly in communion with like their fifth, but it's majorly fifth density self. Yogis, people that meditate all day, you know, rishis, all those like spiritual gurus that meditate, like they are always in connectivity with their fifth density self. That's occurring right now, and that fifth density self knows a lot more than us. They've been through a lot more. So when you are in a meditative state, or you're like not thinking as much, and you're trying to like literally clear out all these thought forms, these energies, because like, as I was saying, as you go through densities, it has a certain particular charge to it. It has like a balance, and like males, masculine is positive. I'm not talking about good. This is not good either. This is outgoing force. The masculine is outgoing, and the feminine is inward, in, yang, out. So you know, in each density, you're learning lessons of like really like the self and others, the self and others, the self and others. So in fourth density, which we are now learning lessons of, which is love, I'll just write this. Fourth, love and understanding. And notice how there's a balance. There's like love is the positive like understanding lesson. Love is the positive lesson of fourth density. Understanding is the negative lesson of fourth density. It's a service to self lesson. See? Service to self. Understanding as in like mechanics and like technology. Like very service to self people are going to be technologically advanced, like wanting to be able to go in and like take over a planet or a civilization, you know, so they can continue their lifespan and their like, you know, their robotic like life, you know. So the more loving we are, service to self, you know, that's what we're learning. And like it takes a circuit to complete. It takes a polar opposite to complete a circuit. I know this is a lot, right?
Oh, great. I love it.
Okay, thank you. It takes a circuit, like a polar opposite to complete a circuit. So, like in first density, masculine energy was like, masculine energy was very conducive to first density. In second density, feminine energy was very conducive to like caring and nurturing for the herd, right? Like they were the ones that survived and like learned the best lessons. Like that feminine, the female animals, like they don't often die. Like they're chilling, and the males are going out like fighting and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm gonna take too much time on that. and in third density, masculine again is very conducive to third density. That's why we've been masculine dominated. And in fourth density, it's very conducive to female energy, and we see females rising to prominence now. And in fifth density, masculine energy be very conducive to that energy, that frequency domain. Because if you're going, it's so hopefully you guys can just gain something from that. I don't understand. I'm channeling this shit. So anyway, back to this fucking butterfly. This butterfly in fifth density, and we can't see it. It's right in front of us. It's us in fifth density. They're right here, right now. They're always aware. They're sending us thought forms, but they're aware of us. They're aware of itself. Because when we enter third density life, we enter a short lifespan. We enter the veil. We enter the veil of forgetfulness, is what the Law of One says. But it's very helpful for us to, in third density, to choose or gain self-awareness. It's very helpful for us to gain self-awareness and choice the more that we don't know. Because you're basically starting from scratch in third density, and you want to let your third density portion of yourself and because like your sixth density self is always has many portions of itself in third density because it wants to polarize. It wants to polarize to service to self or service to others more. It wants to become more service to self or service to others. So based on its own portion, like the sixth density self sends portions of itself, which is like massive, like the energy field and like the awareness and the presence of your sixth density self is so huge that we can't even conceive of it. But it sends many different, like we'll have past lives, right? We'll remember our past lives, and they're all relative. They're all relative to like Earth, right? Or maybe somebody has like a past life on some planet. But usually they're typically relative to Earth. So this sixth density self that's sending portions of itself into third density as well as fourth and fifth, the sixth density wants to go out of this universe and into the next, because that's just evolution. It's just mystery. Like mystery is before this universe started, and mystery is after the universe started, and that's where consciousness wants to be at. That's where the party's at. So that's our unconscious. It's our unconscious evolution. That's our unconscious stimulus, is to go into the mystery. So anyway, the sixth density self is sending portions of itself into third and fourth density and fifth density. Usually the higher the density, the less portions. Because the larger the portion is, the higher you go. Does that make sense?
Say it again.
The higher in density you go, the larger the portion is of yourself. Like
the sixth ascending?
The sixth is the largest portion ever.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So like a third density portion of your sixth density self is like teeny tiny. That's why it has so many different lives in here, because it wants to polarize into. It wants to polarize because it can't go into the new mystery. It can't evolve anymore unless it becomes completely 100% service to self or service to others. Does that make sense? That's why it's sending back. It's sending back in past, in our understanding, so that it can make the choice and be more self-aware of like what polarization it wants to be. Right? And you can only purely choose what polarization, like purely. Because like from once you start your trajectory in third density, once you start here, this is a refresher, like the veil of forgetfulness, you're nothing, you're neutral. And once you start here, then the rest of your trajectory of your like individuated expression as like Cheney, like my future life as Cheney, that portion of me is going to be either geared towards service to self or service to others. So like that trajectory is going to take course right in third density. It's either going to go positive or negative, and from third, whatever. And that's why it's sending you back, because it's the sixth density self is unbiased. It wants you to make the choice for yourself, for itself, and it can only go into the next universe and evolve and become more. You're becoming more essentially aware, so you're becoming more powerful. Because like all higher awareness and intelligence is always organizing lesser, always. Higher intelligence always organizing lesser. You think, well, like no, the past had to build up to the future. It all exists at once, so they both rely on each other. Right? There's no greater. But like the future self is negatively or positively charged. It wants to be service to others, so that's why it's the most powerful, and it wants it to live. It wants it to create, because the universe, which it creates, wants to be either, negatively or positive. I don't even understand what the fuck that means, but that was just yeah. So let it make intuitive sense. Anyway, going back to this butterfly. This butterfly, which is my fifth density self, is floating around me at all times, or sixth density self, you know what I mean? Same thing. And I can't see it because it's out of my density, but it's still here. And I can only see its like shadow, right? In third density, it's like I can't be aware. Like if you look at a butterfly and it's sunny out, right? You can see the shadow on the ground. You may not be able to even see the butterfly because it's so thin. It's so like light and thin. But you can see the shadow moving. And that's what we're doing we're in third density. Like we can't see our higher selves, but we can see our shadow, like our physical body is like the shadow of our higher self. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So anyway, this gets back to psychic awareness because your higher self is like super high frequency, right? It's like ultraviolet. Have you guys ever seen the purple, like the frequency waves of each color? Like how like red is like the slowest, and it's like whoa. Yeah. So like this is purple or indigo purple, your sixth density self, and it's vibrating super fast. Like it's always blissful. It's like the Buddha, what do they call it? Buddha body, they call it, and it's like completely enlightened, completely on all times. So let's say that like this is sixth density, this is fifth density, this is fourth, this is third, this is second, this is first. This is complete fear of your life. Like, this is a little bit less fear. Like, you have your herd together, but you're still like fighting off other primal things. This is third. You're a little bit less frightened. You have your own home, and you're still a creature. You still have that consciousness that you're an object in space. You don't have this awareness that you're like a fucking multi-dimensional spirit being. Third density, you're a little bit less fearful. And fourth, there's less suffering. So this is a great time to interject with the catalyst. Catalyst is like it's suffering. Catalyst is an opportunity for you to become more positive or negatively charged. And in third density, there's more catalyst than fourth density, and the higher you go up in densities, the less catalyst or suffering there is on both terms, on both service to self or service to others. And there's less opportunity to polarize. So that's why another reason why sixth density sends so many portions back to itself, because in order for it to create into the 100% service to self or service to others, into that new universe, and be the creator of a new universe, essentially. And by the way, sixth density self is a social memory complex. It's not like an individual. The higher you go, the less individuated you are. So again, like you're a collective in sixth density. You're an entire race. You're one mind, like just because that's like where the power's at. Is like service is just like one mind. So it wants to send portions of itself. That's why they say like the 144,000. That's such a popular thing. I don't know what it's about, but like people talk about like 144,000. I think it's like Mormon or biblical or some shit, right?
Yeah, it's like the rapture.
Yeah.
144,000 people.
Yeah.
Go to heaven.
Right. That's kind of like speaking in terms of the collective though. Yeah. Like that's the social memory complex in sixth density. Like that's the amount of like individuals are in that social memory complex. But in sixth density, it's just one. So anyway, so your sixth density self, I'll just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so bliss is just like this frequency here. And a little bit farther out from bliss is just like, it's like peace, right? Neutral. Okay. And then, you go back. You go back to like bliss, right? Or you want it. That's the whole effort, right? You want to be constantly blissful. And this is complete freedom, by the way. Like freedom from the shadow, like the body, freedom from like any limitations. You can do anything. You don't have to worry about currency and money or possessions. And and a little bit farther out from peace is like, I don't know, probably like, yeah, this is a great example, because in fifth density you're learning about like how to become more magnetic, become more like self-contained. So in fourth density it's all about love. Like let's say this is love. Like if you rely on somebody else for it, right? To get love. And that's like that's gonna be the lesson in fourth density. I know this is controversial. You guys may not agree with me, which is fine, but love is somewhat service to self. It's not completely purely independent and like you have to rely on somebody else to get it. That's fourth density. We're still doing that. We're going to do that for millennia. But again, you are not limited by time. I explain time. You are not limited by it. Your consciousness can access it at any moment. So you are accessing your sixth density self whenever you want to, whenever you're going into that internal state of the being. Remember that, what I was talking about? At any time, you can go there. So you just need to bar the senses. You need to stop going out to objective world, and use that same direction. Anyway, so yeah, love. You go back between love and bliss, right? Like you have a partner, and like you love them so much, and Sometimes they disappoint you, and that's gonna happen a lot in fourth density. But and it's not only like fourth density is not a location; it's a state of mind. Like I can be in fourth density, and I can be in fifth. I can be in second. I like second a lot. I like it. But anyway, what is this? I was gonna go back. So love is here, and then 3 is like it's negative. It's like that. Again, how I was talking about like the whole the basic charge of the domain. I'm like ridiculous too. The third density is less than love, but it's like you care. It's like it's like a parent. Like you're a parent. Like you have a child, and like you care for them so much, but like you're waiting for them to get the fuck out of your house, kind of like that. Like that's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's really, so it's that emotion. It's like, what is that emotion? Like, you love them, you're suppressed. It's like suppression, third density. It's like, it's super conflicted. But it's like, you love them, but you want them to fuck out. It's like,
It's like you want to make this being the best being possible because it's part of you, but it's not you, and it doesn't do exactly what you want.
Right. Exactly, dude. You hit the nail on the head. So that's that energy. That's like a huge lesson for us in third density. That's that energy that encapsulates third density lessons. And whatever that energy is, we could call it frustration or something. It's called frustration.
Yeah.
So frustration's out here. And notice it's third density. Like if we go up through the chakra, like anger and like solar plexus is third. Mm-hmm. So it's anger. It's like frustration. So that correlates perfectly. But yeah. Anyway, it goes on and on. And the more blissful you are, like the more in tune with your sixth density self, the more blissful, the more joyful, the more service to others you're going to be. By the way, they talk about in Law of One how they don't know of any, because these beings are like 2 billion years old, they don't know of any beings they say that service to self entities start sixth density, but they say that they don't know of any that's like gone beyond sixth density. I don't know. Don't ask me how to measure that shit. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so this is so rapid, so fast, so like subtle. This frequency here that it's you have to be really quiet to be aware of the bliss that is always there present. Because if you're not, like, this is so contained and compact and like condensed, the sixth density self, like it's so efficient that if you're sloppy, like this is sloppy. You're sloppy. Your energy is sloppy. Your fear, you're fearful. So the more that you're like really just like you don't rely on anybody else for joy. That's the whole thing. That's enlightenment there. That's the trick that we're all trying to learn here. That's sixth density lessons. Buddhism and stuff, like Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, whatever. They're just completely just outgoing pure love. And the goal is to become more efficient with your energy, and that's like a lot I don't want to talk bad about humanity, but like they're gonna spend a lot of energy in this next millennia on trying to be of service to others. The mind is cunning. The mind is, because service to self entities, which are we consider bad, but they really are the best teachers. Service to self entities are waiting. They're just like the fifth entity, like fifth and sixth density service to self entities are still at it. They're still wanting to be service to self. They're still wanting to manipulate and control you for their own good. They get their joy out of taking your joy. So they're around, like they're always aware of you, especially if you're a high priority target. Like if the higher the entity in service to self, like I'm sure like Tony Robbins and shit, like he's got fucking nasty entities all over him. Like people that are always like, you know. Anyway, so they're always around here. Like they're always outside of you. And this, by the way, your left side of your body is negative charge. This is if you're right-handed. Like if you're left-handed, then it's positive. Like it's switched. But I'm right-handed, so my right hand is actually positive. It's outgoing. It's negative. It's ingoing. So this isn't physically correct, but I put it here just so you guys can kind of like make a connection. It's not like they're not on my left side of the body. That's not what I meant. Like the entities, what's up?
Why would you say it has to do with handedness?
Well, that's like the your chart. That's just like a way to understand. It'll make sense. It'll make sense.
Okay.
That's just the way that your body works. Like so your brain, your right side of your brain is feminine. It's like it's creative, it's artistic, it's like universal, it's like circular. It's circle. Your left side of your brain is negative. It's like masculine. See, that's the thing though, because like masculine is positive, so it creates the circuit. Like the left side of the body, like this side of the body is, oh shit, maybe it's not flipped. Okay, so let's just say that all beings, all beings are, so that's an anomaly to me, like left-handed people. That's an anomaly. I don't understand it. So just assuming
we don't
that,
understand ourselves either.
Right.
Well, and a left-handed person, this is your world. I just live here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so everything geared towards being right-handed. I mean, you come out, you're born this way, but you come out trained the other way. So I don't think I would be a complete flip-flop opposite from a right-handed person. I think I actually assimilate to them. But they never have to assimilate to me.
Yeah, totally. And that's like the masculine dominated world, right?
Yeah.
The northern hemisphere is masculine, the globe. If we cut it in half, the equator, positive, negative, the northern hemisphere dominates the world.
Mm.
You know? But it's balancing out now. It's and that's like the whole thing is like even like if you're ambidextrous, like that's great. That's great for your own like energy and your movement through your whole energy field. Anyway, so I'm not going to stick too long on the whole body thing. So the service to self it'll make sense in a little bit. The service to self is floating around you just like the service to other self, which is in 6th density. And the 6th density positive entity is waiting for a moment passively, for you to be quiet, for you to be like, because when you're sitting quietly, you're magnetic, you're drawing in energy, and like you're patient, you're silent, you're like waiting for the answer kind of. But and like that's why service to self entities, let's go 6th density, service to self. Very powerful entities. But they still can't infringe upon your free will. There's still like basic laws and mechanics of the universe that they can't actually take control of you unless you think that you're thinking what they're sending you. That makes sense? They're sending. Yeah. Well, it's you'll think that it's you, but it's really not you.
Right.
Yeah. It's really the service self entities, and like they're so expanded in their awareness that they can be at many places at many times. Because when I'm talking about 6th density, I'm talking about matter. But in dimensions, like I'm not going to even go there right now because that's physics. I'm not going to confuse you guys even more. but I'm not talking derogatory at all. I just want you guys to like get something out of this. So I'll just continue with this. Sixth density, they're waiting for you to like slip at all moments, to be in your mind and to like to think that there's a problem to fix, and then they'll come up with a solution. That's clear. You will think the problem. It's not even you. You don't even think. You're not. You're just pure awareness. So the problem is just another entity, and the solution is that also it could be the same entity. But you'll think of the problem, and they'll think of the solution, and that will help them because they get polarity. They become more stronger in their service of self-polarization. And I'm not even talking about like other dimensional entities. I'm talking about humans as well. Like they want to control the masses, like those. And by the way, going into fourth density, they talk about how the cutoff point. So like I talked about the sinkhole of indifference, I think last time. You guys remember that?
Okay.
No. So the sinkhole of indifference is like this 50% service to self, service to others, right? Right here. And 95%. So in sixth density, in fourth density Earth, which we're now transitioning into, which we are not completely arrived yet, the entities that are service to self, the leaders of the corporations, leaders of the world, basically, they're going to have to become more evil. I don't look at this thing as good or bad, but this is just a good understanding of it. Like you'll forgive them once you understand. So they'll have to become more evil to stay on this planet because it's vibrating in a fourth density frequency of love and understanding. And that's if the only way they can stay on the planet in this body in this life is if they have 95% or more service to self thoughts. And the only way that service to anybody else, like in between 95% service to self and 50% service to others, there's not gonna be any humans. There's not gonna be any like the third density consciousness that we are inhabiting now is gonna be completely transformed into fourth density. So who knows? Maybe the third density consciousness of humans. I'm sure you guys know about inner Earth civilizations, right? Have heard about it. Maybe the third density, this is just me through thinking, but third density consciousness may go below ground or something. Or we may go below ground and then third density consciousness may inhabit this earth. But at all times, all densities of consciousness are always inhabiting the earth. Fifth, sixth, seventh. Alright. Does that make sense?